The Knicks are making news, and this time it's not a scandal. Imagine that.
He says, now you know.
Let me ask you.
Now you know it's too late.
Reports say they want to hire GM Elton Brand away from the 76ers. They also hired ex-Joel Embiid agent Leon Rose to run their front office, so maybe the Knicks have a master plan of luring Embiid to MSG. We do know for sure that they want Elton Brand. He was hired in Philly just 2 years ago with no GM experience. People loved him for immediately trading for Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. They came 4 bounces away from OT and a conference finals. This year, though, some Sixers fans have turned on him. He's given out bloated contracts, and the team has been inconsistent on the court. People who hate Brand say he's a horrible GM. Anyone can give out big contracts and trade future assets. He's not exactly Greg Popovich over here.
Why would you say something like that?
In this video, we'll answer if the Knicks are going after a talented or a terrible GM. Hey, it's Casey Kiernan, host of the AM Hoops YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, support the channel because we're still coming out with 5 quality videos all throughout the week, all throughout the NBA suspension. Philly before Elton Brand was extremely chaotic. Businessman Josh Harris bought a majority stake in the Sixers in 2011. GM Tony DeLeo left the team and Sam Hinkie was hired. A first-time GM with a crazy idea. Let's intentionally lose and get high draft picks. To be fair, the idea made sense. There are only 3 ways that you can build a team. You can trade, you can draft, or you can get free agents. And if no free agents are coming to your team, why not lose intentionally, get high picks that you can either trade with or draft with? Brilliant! So the Sixers went all in on tanking. They tied the longest losing streak ever. They traded away good players. It hurt your eyeballs to watch them. But fans were told to trust the process, which they did.
Trust the process, my brother. All right.
Until after just 3 years, the team parted ways with Sam Hinkie. I guess it's one thing to say you're all in on losing, but living through it year after year takes a toll. Not only was Josh Harris over it, the NBA wanted Hinkie out. The league was paranoid other teams might try to tank. They even changed the draft lottery to discourage it. But was the process worth it in Philly? They made good decisions with high picks like Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. They made some bad decisions too. Jahlil Okafor, Markelle Fultz. The Sixers are in contention every year now, but haven't won a title, so I guess it depends on your definition of worth it. The next Sixers GM was Bryan Colangelo. He was hired after his father, Jerry Colangelo, was put in charge of the front office in 2015. Bryan Colangelo was fired after a huge controversy. It turns out he or his wife were using burner Twitter accounts. These accounts criticized Joel Embiid off the court, claimed that Nerlens Noel was a problem in the locker room, leaked that Jahlil Okafor couldn't be traded to the Pelicans because he didn't pass a physical. And the way people caught on was a lot of that information was info that could only have come from Bryan Colangelo or someone within the front office. So at the time you figure, okay, it really could be anyone in that front office until you saw these tweets. They defended Bryan Colangelo's job as GM, even defended the way he dressed. They talked a lot of crap about Sam Hinkie and even Masai Ujiri, who became the Raptors president after Bryan Colangelo. Other tweets leaked sensitive information about Markelle Fultz's shooting problems and mental issues, so it was pretty obvious. These tweets came from someone in the front office and probably Bryan Colangelo. The whole thing blew up when The Ringer wrote an article exposing Colangelo. His wife took the blame. The Sixers hired a firm to investigate. They found evidence supporting the wife's claim, but they also said Colangelo shouldn't have shared sensitive information. Obviously, the Sixers parted ways with Bryan Colangelo and needed another GM. They let Coach Brett Brown run the team in 2018, where he made a pretty great pick in Landry Shamet at 26th overall. Eventually, they made Elton Brand their new GM, which was kind of a shock to a lot of Sixers fans. The issue was Elton Brand had 0 years of NBA front office experience, and some people thought this wasn't a job for a guy like that. This was a really important time in the franchise's history. They had just gone through years of losing, and it was time to capitalize on Embiid and Simmons. The team, though, liked Brand because it's a players' league, he's a former All-Star, and a #1 pick. The locker room liked him, and he's a smart guy who went to Duke. The other issue, though, in this whole Elton Brand hiring was team owner Josh Harris keeping Brian Colangelo's staff in the front office. People questioned how much power Brand would actually have as GM, but he immediately got to work. He took advantage of Jimmy Butler's issues in Minnesota. The Sixers traded young assets like Robert Covington and Dario Saric to the Timberwolves. That added a third star with Embiid and Simmons. Then he gave up on former #1 pick Markelle Fultz. He traded for Tobias Harris from the Clippers in exchange for players and picks, including 2 firsts and Landry Shamet. That is how you make an entrance as a first-time NBA GM. Elton Brand was going all in on 2018-2019, adding a legit star and a budding star to the mix. The Sixers took the eventual champion Raptors all the way to 7 games before Kawhi Leonard hit the biggest non-final shot ever. Almost as bad as that early exit, though, Elton Brand had traded away really good players like Covington, Saric, and Shamet, plus future first-round picks for 2 expiring contracts. Now, you could defend Elton Brand and say those moves were worth it because they had big rookie extensions coming up, but ultimately those moves backfired. They couldn't keep Jimmy Butler after that half year. Brand did get a sign and trade done to get back Josh Richardson, but he's not better than Rocco and Saric. The Sixers then had to overpay to keep Tobias Harris. He's disappointed at times this year, and Landry Shamet's shooting is exactly what this team is missing. Harris got a max contract with Philly, and he's not a max contract guy. He isn't a late game closer, and he'll be making about $40 million when he's 31 years old. That's one of the worst contracts in the NBA. On second thought, Al Horford actually rivals Tobias Harris for worst contract. Elton Brand signed Horford away from the Celtics in free agency for 4 years, $109 million. Now, at first, that made sense. A center that can fill in for Embiid when he's injured, and it takes a big piece away from the rival Celtics. In reality, though, it's been a mess. Horford cannot play alongside Embiid in the starting 5, so Elton Brand basically paid over $100 million for a backup center. And that move means they have no money left over to fix their other big issues, like a lack of shooting. So Philly can't space the floor, which makes their existing issues with Embiid and Simmons that much worse. Now, there are other smaller moves he's made. There were good decisions, like trading up from Matisse Thybulle at 20th overall in 2019, but Brand's major moves have hurt the Sixers. So back to our original question here, why the hell would the New York Knicks want to hire the guy that potentially messed up the Sixers? The answer could be they think it wasn't Elton Brand's fault. There is a chance that Sixers ownership pressured Elton Brand into making those stupid moves. He didn't even get to hire his own front office. Besides, Elton Brand is a smart, well-liked guy, and if anyone would know what really went down in Philly, it would be Leon Rose. The new Knicks front office guy was Joel Embiid's agent just a few months ago. So maybe Leon Rose thinks this is the perfect time to hire Elton Brand. He now has GM experience, unlike when Philly hired him. Brand has now made mistakes in Philly that he can learn from. He can hire his own staff in New York and finally turn the Knicks around. And that brings us back to the master plan to get Joel Embiid. Embiid is under contract for 3 more years, but he could demand a trade to the Knicks. Just this year, Embiid has told the fans to shut the f*** up. He hinted a trade on Twitter with Jimmy Butler, and he showed up the owner. Josh Harris wanted to cut paychecks for employees, and Embiid publicly backed them with a $500,000 donation. The problem, though, is getting Elton Brand from Philly. He's under contract for another year, and the Sixers say they're, quote, very happy with his work. They could be bluffing, trying to drive up the price. If the Sixers could get a first-round pick for Elton Brand, they should go for it. And the Knicks have extra first-round picks. after trading Marcus Morris to the Clippers and Kristaps Porzingis to the Mavericks. Maybe Philly's just saying they like Brand to get a pick out of New York. Or maybe they're serious. The Sixers have been a mess for years. We just went over the losing from the Sam Hinkie years, the burner account embarrassment of Brian Colangelo. If Philly fires a well-liked Elton Brand after just 2 years, they'll be almost Knicks dysfunctional. But recently, Elton Brand publicly took full responsibility for all the moves that the Sixers have made under his tenure as GM. And if that's true, then the Knicks really are focusing on a terrible guy to run their team. But that actually makes sense, because that's exactly what the Knicks have done the last 20 years. Support AM Hoops and click subscribe. Don't miss a daily NBA video.